Hey, SEGways!
I've had so many people ask me now to do a video on The Dead Files. This will be my first time watching this show. I'm not even sure how to get the Travel Channel here in Australia. And why does the Travel Channel do so much of this paranormal stuff? Never mind. The two stars of The Dead Files are Amy Allen, a psychic medium.
A lot of dead people are here.
I see dead people.
This is not good.
I speak to dead people.
He is very pissed off.
And they speak to me.
Oh, you crazy.
And for those who are regulars to my channel, probably already know my thoughts on psychic mediums.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Global bullshit. I call bullshit.
And Amy's co-star is Steve Buscemi, a former Marine and New York City detective who came out of retirement to ghost hunt.
I'm Steve Buscemi. I'm a retired New York City homicide detective.
He got shot at his house?
And I know every person, every house at sea. Aren't you terrified being here? It's my job to reveal.
And for those of you who think the whole detective coming out of retirement for one last assignment is a bit cliche, it's because it really is a huge cliche. But Steve would have come out of retirement back in 2011 when The Dead Files first aired. So how early did this guy retire from the force? So I guess we gotta ask, did Steve take very early retirement from the force, or is there perhaps another reason why he left? I don't know, I don't want to start speculating, but it is a bit weird. I don't know, is that normal for detectives? Do detectives take really early retirement? Anyway, Amy and Steve go into these haunted houses and, well, do exactly what every other ghost hunting show does. But as this video goes on, I'm going to explain just why I think this show is actually pretty harmful. Before we go any further, I need to take this moment to thank all of my beautiful members and patrons for your ongoing support. You guys are amazing, and you really do help keep the lights on around here. The Dead Files convincingly won the vote, which I'm kinda worried about, because I'm getting the feeling that I'm going to be in for a rough video here. If you want to get involved in the next vote and punish Side-Eye Guy for some reason, on who I react and or debunk next, please consider becoming a member or a patron. The link is in the description.
Away we go!
Debbie was depending on Amy and me to find some answers and hopefully save her from quitting her job.
I'm not just saying this, I love that New Yorker accent.
We're hearing things, we're seeing things, objects are moving, and it really scares me. I called Amy and Steve, hoping that they could give us some answers.
You might be wondering where Amy is. Well, The Dead Files have Steve and Amy explore the haunted location separately, for some reason. Steve goes in and gathers research like a detective would, and Amy just kinda stumbles around the place talking out of her ass, pretending that she's getting her information from the spirits. And of course, not a Dead Files researcher. So for most of this show, Amy and Steve do not interact with each other, so there is no chemistry or back and forths between them. And for me, this makes the show a bit stale. The two do come together and talk about their experiences and findings of the location at the end of each episode, while scaring the living piss out of anyone that was already on edge working at these alleged haunted locations. But we'll get into all of that later in the video.
Because I can't keep bringing people here on a tour if this is what's going to happen.
Are you concerned for your safety?
Yeah, because I don't know who or what it may be, what it wants, and it just makes you feel like what it wants isn't going to be good.
I'm convinced Steve is actually Alfred Mullaney researching his next role for an upcoming movie.
The moment I got into town, hundreds of dead people began talking to me.
Bullshit.
I immediately knew this would be a really intense walk.
I just see a lot of dead bodies all over the place. It's really bad.
I'm going to be in for a long video, aren't I? Let's pretend for a second that this isn't all verbal diarrhea of the most critical level. All Amy says is that there are lots of dead bodies scattered around. Why is that even bad? She doesn't explain any more than this. If her psychic medium nonsense was legit, then surely she'd be used to seeing dead bodies all over the place. Since a lot of people who have walked the earth have, of course, died. So you'd imagine ghosts would be absolutely everywhere. Amy doesn't say that these dead bodies are interacting with her or intend to do her harm. She doesn't say anything other than she just sees them. This is clearly all just bullshit drummed up for dramatic effect. And it's just clear as day bollocks. Anyway, the show now darts back to Steve.
Gertie.
And no, I'm not making another Steve from the House of the Dead joke. I've already done that in my recent Ghost Adventures video. Except that I just mentioned it now when I didn't want to bring it up again. But I know if I don't mention it, I'll get people in the comments saying,
"Hey dude, the guy's called Steve and you didn't make a Steve House of the Dead joke. You suck, side-eye guy."
So even though I didn't want to do it, I've dedicated a shitload of time right now talking about Steve from the House of the Dead yet again, right now. Honest to God, I think I am going as crazy as Steve.
So Debbie, what's going on in here?
Well, a lot of people have reported seeing the spirit of a little girl up here.
Okay, surely this is Alfred Mulaney auditioning for the role of Al Capone.
Amy and I have dealt with a lot of clients who've tried to contact the dead.
I just kind of said, if you're here, can you give us some kind of sign?
It never turns out so good.
I've tried to contact the dead. Every paranormal YouTuber has tried to contact the dead. Every teenager who goes through that cringy, morbid curiosity phase tries to contact the dead. It's not edgy, it's not interesting, it's nothing. Because nothing ever happens.
This toy box right here, the lid, all of a sudden comes falling down. This blanket that's right here starts going up and over this guy's shoulder, all on its own. He's sitting right in front of the toy box.
All we believe is that you just spewed a bunch of nonsense.
There's a little girl who runs around the place.
Death is a difficult concept for living kids to understand. For dead kids, it can be like a playground, where they have abilities they didn't have in life.
Yeah, she definitely would have watched too much Casper the Friendly Ghost as a kid.
She likes to jump on things. She likes to hide in things. She's in the wardrobe and you hear little people would get nervous from this.
I'd be nervous around you too. Since this episode aired that I'm watching now, Amy has in fact left the Dead Files. She was on the show for over 200 episodes, but decided to leave halfway through filming season 15. I'm not sure why this happened. I don't know if there's any drama attached to this story, and honestly, I don't really give a shit.
Out of all the witnesses I've interviewed, Valerie was clearly the most shaken up by what she'd seen.
Hello, Peter.
What happened on the tour?
I hear what sounded like footsteps. And I just happened to glance over and I saw this tall shadow man. And he stopped, turned around and looked at me with these evil-looking glowing eyes.
She doesn't seem that shaken up. She seems to be retelling the story in a very calm manner.
A lot of the activity here was taking place outside. And as soon as I left the building, I was confronted by a huge figure.
There's that big old guy, pretty tall dude. Okay.
Big guy's not so nice.
He works really hard at being seen.
Well, he doesn't work that bloody hard. Nobody else can see him, and there's no footage of him being seen.
I had nightmares. I want to face my fears, but at the same time, I'm scared to death of what may happen next, what he might do next.
Okay, to be fair, she does actually seem to be shaken up after all. Maybe the producers of the show should get her some psychological help so she can realise that there's nothing to actually be fearful of.
Nah.
But I highly doubt any level of duty of care is thought of while filming the Dead Files.
There's a little girl. She's a bad girl. Like, she likes to scare people.
I could tell this little girl just needed attention.
The ghost ain't the only one in need for attention.
Unfortunately, the way she went about it was freaking people out.
You don't see any level of irony in this at all, Amy?
I mean, she is just playing, but she's out of control,
I know you are, but what am I?
Lots of yelling here. Lot of yelling. And it's between a woman and a man, mostly.
The yelling will be between me and my screen before too long.
What about the man? What is his relationship to her?
They're married. She leaves a lot, traveling. She's a nasty. She's a nasty, nasty lady. She's a nasty, nasty lady. She's a nasty, nasty lady.
Oh god. Amy isn't one of those mediums that does impressions of those she's channeling, is she?
Yes.
I've seen more than enough of those.
Hello. It's nice to be here.
Is there anything you want to say?
I'm so afraid things will be misinterpreted. This world misinterprets me.
Francis! Francis!
You're Francis, are you? You Francis?
Francis.
Francis. What's your surname, Francis?
The last clip was of course the late Derek Acorah in Most Haunted, and I just love how Yvette Fielding does her absolute best not to burst out laughing right in Derek's face while he's doing this.
It took me about a second to dislike this woman,
I know the feeling.
and it was obvious she felt the same way about me.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
She's destructive. She doesn't have a soul.
Are you channeling my ex?
I spent hours searching through articles on mining-related deaths in the area.
Did you, Steve? Did you really, or maybe a show researcher did it for you? But regardless, looking into the history of these locations is far more interesting and factual than a psychic's feelings. So Steve's team discovered, long ago, that there was a prostitute that was murdered near the haunted mansion. And guess what? Amy just so happens to collaborate Steve's findings. Pretty much, this is the structure and premise of the whole bloody show. And I'm already finding it really tedious.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Steve and his team do actual research. They talk to historians, they interview those who witnessed the paranormal phenomena, and they go into the archives reading articles about the local area to gather facts on who may have died in or around the haunted locations. Then in swoops Amy and repeats all of Team Steve's findings via her psychic feelings.
There was a guy around here. He was killing ladies. This one lady he killed was 30s, 40s.
That's convenient.
And this, I would only assume, would impress the easily fooled. This whole show reminds me of a Danny Robbins experiment that he did before he started the amazing Uncanny podcast. He gathered 3 psychic mediums to channel the ghosts in a fake haunted location, and he posted a fake online article about this building. And guess what? Every psychic got their info from the fake article that they could easily find online.
She's given me the name of George.
And I got the name George.
Brilliant, George.
It was George, yeah.
The only trouble is that George is part of a made-up story that I planted on the Chocolate Factory website a week ago.
I feel like he was quite angry about something as well.
I think they might be cheating.
But Amy of the Dead Files doesn't even need to make the effort to find articles about the haunted locations that she's going to. She would more than likely have a researcher do all of that hard work for her.
I saw a lot of negative entities on this walk, but out of all of them, there was one I felt was most dangerous. Just as we were getting started, the lady with the icy touch showed herself across the room. She was demanding that I draw her the way she wanted to be seen. I didn't think the way we were sketching her was flattering, but that's exactly what she wanted.
They don't show us the drawing just yet to try and build up suspense, and as you can probably tell, I'm on the edge of my seat. Next up, we finally see Steve and Amy together. This episode of The Dead Files actually has 2 investigations squeezed into a 42-minute show, so they really don't dedicate very much time to each location. The pace of this show is so incredibly fast that you don't even have any time to soak in anything that's been said, which is more than likely an intentional decision. I'm not sure if every episode is structured this way. I mean, I could just watch another episode to find out for myself, but my god, I really don't want to watch any more of this show than I have to. I'm not even going to watch the second investigation in this same episode that I'm watching now. You can call me lazy all you want, but there's only so much of Amy's bullshit that I can watch.
When I sit down for a reveal, it's the very first time I meet the clients. Steve caught me up on the encounters Debbie and Valerie were experiencing.
Steve caught me up? Like Amy wasn't briefed on all of this before the cameras switched on.
Unfortunately, I had some bad news to deliver.
Oh god no. You didn't leave the Dead Files to do a spin-off solo show, did ya?
And we were just so anxious to hear what they were going to tell us.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
I saw this nasty lady.
She's a nasty lady. She's a nasty lady.
Who was extremely angry. And she was yelling at her husband.
Why do I get the feeling that Steve's notes look like this?
That was one of those moments where Amy just nailed it.
Can I suggest that any cases Steve worked on whilst being a New York City detective be reopened and re-examined? Because this guy's judgment is shit.
I explained how Mackie and his wife Louise had a rough relationship.
And the marriage wasn't really much. I mean, she spent most of her time in Paris.
But it wasn't until I revealed the photos of Mrs. Mackie that Amy really put the pieces together.
It's so dumb.
Oh, I see that look on your face. What is it?
Well, actually, I sketched her.
You see now why they left it this late to do the sketch reveal? It's way more dramatic and stupid now.
What the hell am I looking at?
It has the same scowl look.
There was that intense anger in the eyes in the sketch. That really surprised me. That was a bit of a shock to see that.
It has the same scowl look.
There was that intense anger in the eyes in the sketch. That really surprised me.
I'm not going to make fun of the ladies who are being taken advantage of. They seem genuine in their interviews on screen. But it really does show that when people are scared and on edge, they will believe any old shit if they think they will get help and it validates their own fears and beliefs. How in the hell can the Dead Files ever convince any one of us that Amy's sketch wasn't simply sight drawn from this photograph off camera? This is so transparently dumb it actually hurts. I picked this episode out randomly, but I'm sure just about every episode of The Dead Files is as full of shit as what I'm watching right now.
Amy, what else did you see?
A young girl. She is very ill.
Well, yeah, she's dead.
Mackie, she was a widow whose husband had died. They had a young girl, a daughter.
And the Oscar goes to... So far, Amy and I had a lot of matching information.
Whoa, shocking news.
But then she starts talking about the Shadow Man. And that's when the reveal took a really dark turn.
I'm the Shadow Man!
I saw
This really tall, dark mass. And this individual really likes to scare people.
Go get some help, you freaking nutcase!
The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I had this chill run down my spine. I just started crying.
All Steve and Amy are doing is making these two women more scared than they already are. Then the Dead Files will fuck off to film their next video at a different location, leaving the two ladies worse off than they were before the Dead Files ever visited them. Morally, at least in my opinion, this is some really shady shit we're seeing right here.
Valerie was shaken up by the Shadow Man, but in my opinion, she was worried about the wrong entity.
Amy is happy to pile more and more things on these women to be scared of, as long as it helps with the Dead Files ratings.
Seeing the results of the investigation. The reason you called us in is because you want to know if it's safe or not to be here. I can't answer that, only Amy can.
This show went from annoying and silly to being really messed up. Amy is going to determine the mental well-being of these vulnerable women on whether it is safe for them to remain in this property.
The best way to approach this is not to fall for it.
I wish that nobody would fall for Amy's bullshit.
The girl, she should not be here. She needs to go on.
The best way for her to do that would be for another medium to come in to talk to her.
Guess they got the content they needed from this video. No time to actually help these women. Amy and Steve are already off to their next victim.
And then the other one is this nasty lady. She just does not need to be here. The only problem is that would have to be done through exorcism.
You know, Amy, I never even heard you say that word before.
In my opinion, this bullshit is really crossing a line. And even for those of you who believe in mediums, surely you can see the damage that this can do. There is nobody that we see in this show that gives these ladies any kind of psychological evaluation or care. It's all just woo-woo bullshit telling us crap with no evidence whatsoever and scaring the living shit out of those who really need help. Amy is just stoking this fire rather than making any kind of effort to put it the fuck out. And as far as I'm concerned, this is really irresponsible and potentially damaging.
Amy's gotten on my case for misusing the word exorcism. So when she said that was her recommendation, I knew this was serious.
I'm tired, boss.
We now skip to 7 months later for a catch-up.
Amy told us that we needed to bring in a medium, and she said it really needed to be someone who knew what they were doing.
You mean they charge a lot more for doing absolutely nothing?
I went upstairs and I called on one of the archangels to come and take the little girls and Mrs. Mackey's spirits. Mrs. Mackey is gone at this time. That doesn't mean she can't come back.
Oh, for fuck's sake, piss right off with this bollocks.
It's good that Debbie has followed my advice, but I want to be clear. An entity that powerful can survive an exorcism.
Oh, come on!
It's very possible that one day, the spirit of Mrs. Mackey could find a way back to the place she calls home.
Well, thank you for wasting everyone's time.
The two ladies who run the tours say that since the cleansing of the house, which incidentally is not the same as an exorcism, so it seems in fact there was no exorcism in this house, just this lady walking around the house with some incense sticks. But anyway, the two ladies say that since the house was cleansed that the haunties have in fact stopped, and they feel more comfortable doing their job. But of course, Amy can't just let all's well that ends well. She has to throw in some bullshit just to create more drama, by saying the negative spirits can come back at any point for whatever reason they want. And of course, this will just keep the fear alive in the two ladies who are working there, and also the Dead Files could be thinking of a reason to return back to the Mackey Mansion in future episodes. I hate this show. I really hate it. Steve does bring some comic relief with his tough guy New Yorker character that he's created, but Amy is full of shit, and I mean really full of shit. I mean, to be fair, Steve is full of shit too, because he's obviously in on all this bollocks. But as you watch this show, you can really see how Amy manipulates and strikes more fear into these ladies who work at this location. It's disgusting. As I mentioned earlier, there is a second case in this episode, but I am not covering it. I am done. I am out. Because I need to protect the remaining brain cells I've got left. So, if you enjoyed my reaction on the Dead Files, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm off to tightrope walk between two skyscrapers without any formal training. Ta very much. Cheerio!